Sham Sharadava Nalalidaloka Tranaya Karunam Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalidaloka Tranaya Karunam Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyanam Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Praptasya Kalyanam Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Vande Gurashi Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditramadhyam Manasurasena Mahaprabhu Gita Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Gurashi Charanarvrindam Romanchakam Pasru Shri Vigrahara Dhana Nityanana Shringaratanma Niramajanado Juktasya Bhaktamsya Niyunjatapi Vande Gurashi Charanarvrindam Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasadu Satana Truptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidashi Bhagavat Prasadu Satana Truptam Kridvaiva Trupti Bhajata Shadeva Vande Gurashi Charanarvrindam Vajata Shadeva Shirarikama Davayurapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Shirarikama Pratikshana Swa Dhanalalupasa Vande Gurashi Charanarvrindam Ne kunjayono Ratikelisidai Jajali Virijuktir Apekshaniya Ne kunjayono Ratikelisidai Jajali Virijuktir Tatrati Daksha Atibalabhasa Vande Gurashi Charanarvrindam Sakchadharidena Shamasta Shastri Ruktastatthava Vyataiva Sadhavi Sakchadharidena Shamasta Shastri Kintu Praborja Priya eva tasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravinda Yasya prasada Bhagavat prasada Yasya prasadam Nagati kutapi Yasya prasadam Dhyayam stuvam tasya Yasatri sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Dhyayam stuvam tasya Yasatrin sanyam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Danta Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Vachatadisha Tarine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Shunyavadi Vachatarishata Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Gadadhar Gaur Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari और भक्त वृंद श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Bo, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Gaura Brahmanande, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hariyaraye Namah, Krishna Jadavaye Namah, Jadavaye Madhavaye Kesavaye Namah, Gopal Govindaram Srimadhusudam, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda, Shri Advaita Sita, Hare Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raguna. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Shri Radha Nila Madhav, Radha Nila Madhav Radhe. Jayo Jagannath, Jayo Baladeva, Jayo Subhadrama, Jayo Sudarshan Chakra. Baladeva, Subhadrama. Jaya Sitaram, Jayo Sitaram, Sitaram, Jayo Lakshman Hanuman. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Pramanandi Hari Haribo. Jai Vishwapara Paramahansa Prabha Jakacharya Suttara Saraswati Mahat Vishwan के सभचर विन भक्ति विरांत स्वयं महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय. ISKCON प्रतिष्ठा विविधि संस्थापकाचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि भक्त पावन श्री प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय. श्री गौरी गुरु वर्ग पतित उद्धार की जय. श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सद्गुरु स्वामी प्रभु की जय. नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासारी गौर भक्तविंद की जय. जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय. प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद श्रीमन गौरंग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावृणावतार की जय. गोलोकेर प्रेमधान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जग की जय. जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय. बृहदंग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय. शिष्य राधा कृष्ण गोप गुप्ता राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय. श्री ब्रज वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय. दिलोशिव शिष्य राधा नीला माधव की जय. श्री श्री माया पूर्णवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय. परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय. श्री पुरुषोत्तम कित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय. श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु श्रीमती सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय. भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना कनु सिंहरे भगवान की जय. जगंगा माई जमुना माई की जय. तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय. श्री मथुरा राधा रानी की जय. समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय. निताय गौरी प्रेमानंदी. All glories to somebody voice. All glories to somebody voice. All glories to somebody voice. All glories, glories to Shri Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. तुलसीदेवाय प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रद देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाई तुलसीदेवाय प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रद देवी सतवताय नमः। वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रद देवी सतवताय। जय श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की।
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो हे अभिलाषी
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 जे तोमार शरण लोय तारा वांछ पूर्ण होय
तोमार शरण तारा वांछ पूर्ण
कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे दावनवासी
तुमि कृपा
कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावनवासी मोराया बिलास बिलास कुंज धियो बास मोराया बिलास बिलास कुंज धियो बास नयने हरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि
अमिनायने हरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि
हे निवेदन धरो सकेरानुगत करो
हे निवेदन धरो सकेरानुगत करो
सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी
सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी
तुम्ही सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी
सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी
दीना कृष्ण दासे कोई जे न मोरा दीना कृष्ण दासे कोई जे न मोरा श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा जिन भासी
श्री राधा
गोविंद प्रेम सदा जिन भासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा जिन भासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा जिन भासी तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः ज्ञानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति पदे
ज्ञानि कानि च पापानि
ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति तदाक्षिण पदे पदे ज्ञानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति तदाक्षिण पदे पदे
ज्ञानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति तदाक्षिण पदे पदे
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani,
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Vrinda Devi, Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaura
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev, Gurudev.
Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattva-bhaktaye Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattva-bhaktaye Namaha. Vrindaye Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattva-bhaktaye Namaha. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai Jai Jai. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to claim the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you as wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision of all behold beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavadams of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in love with Shri Radha and Govind. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Khastakam ki Jai Ho. Chaito Darpanam Mahajanam Pamada Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Vaudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pitanyamita Shmarane Kala Etadrishi tava kripaya bhagavan namati Durdhaivam idrisham yajana Nanuragaha Vinarabhisanichena Tarorapi saishnuna Amaninamanadena Kitanya sadahari Na dhanam na janam na sundarim Kavitamba jagadishakamaye Mama janmani janmanishwari Bhavatar bhakti rahaitu kitvai Vainanda tanuja kinkaram Paritamam vishame bhavam buddho Kripaya tava pada pankaja Sitaduli sadrisham vichintaya Nayanam galorashu dharaya Vadanam gadu gadarudaya gira Pulakairinchitam vapukada Tavanamagrane bhavisati Yugaitam nimishena Chakrusha prarusaitam Shunyaitam jagata sarvam Govinda virahe name Aslishva padratam pinastumam Darshanan marmahatam karotuva Jata tatha vavidadatu lampatu Mat pranatastu saivana paro Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kristakam ki jai Vadanai Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratishe Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana,
which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years,
and extinguishes the fire of conditioned life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to the living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen to this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Saksastakam ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Vani Vicharani Visesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1.
To blaspheme and devotees who dedicated lives to propagating the holy names of the Lord.
2.
To consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the names of Lord Vishnu.
3.
To disobey the orders of the spiritual master.
4.
To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version.
5.
To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination.
6.
To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord.
7.
To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord.
8.
to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activities or karma kanda.
9.
To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. To not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Vajrayani Vishesha Namaskati Sata. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Om Aganyati Mirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachikamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pastatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamini Shivarsavanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupa Nuga Virudapa Apisidanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Shakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padam Bhajayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandanamine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Vurayate Gora Vir Bhava Bhamestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvas Brahma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Panchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chuse Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Jayatam Suratur Bangur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpa Jumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastato Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasaram Bhivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venus Swanir Gopir Gopinatak Striyesturna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai, Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai, Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadi Radhi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Satma Sukalpa Vriksha Laksha Vrite Susurabhira Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adipurisham Tamanham Bhajami Venam Kvanantam Aravinda Dalayataksham Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Chibanga Lalita Niyata Prakasam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakilendriya Vritti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiranjaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purisham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsada Sampragamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Munipungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tattve Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatam Jagadanda Kotim Yaschakti Rasta Jagadanda Chayayadanta Andanta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Rastam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha Suktar Yameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Tayakalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadaiva Hidayesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Amenatistan Nanavattara Makarod Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumamyo Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Kotis Vasesu Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Mayahi Yasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Trigun Yatad Vishaya Veda Vitayamanam Sattva Valambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu Ya Praninam Pratifalam Smaratam Upetya Lilaya Tena Bhuvanani Jayaya Jasram Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijadamni Tale Chatasya Devi Mahesu Haridama Sutesu Tesu Tete Prabhava Nijaya Vitasya Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Shrististati Pralaya Sadhava Saktireka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichanurupam Apiyasya Chachestate Sa Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Yenam Jata Dadivikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Heto Yasambhutam Apitata Samapaiti Karyat Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Departure Evahita Santanam Abhyupetya Dipayate Vivita Hetu Samanu Dharma Yastadrik Evahicha Vishnutaya Vibhati Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupaha Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Smamurtim Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasitakala Matavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nataha Vishnur Mahansa Yashikala Visheso Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Basmanya Tasma Sakalesu Nijesu Tejaha Swiyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitatva Datra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanu Karta Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvande Pranama Samayesa Kanadi Raja Virag Vinantam Aramasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahika Ganamabhu Maruddhi Sascha Kala Tadatmam Malasiti Jagachayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschakshuresa Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Tejaha Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Shrutayastapamsi Pramadi Kita Patagava Teyascha Jivaha Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakatapa Bhava Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhanu Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nita Hati Kinshutu Bhakti Vajam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Kroda Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaura Vasevya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Talamat Burete Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Jumabu Mischintamani Gaya Maya Toyam Amritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriya Saki Chiranandam Jyotiparam Apitad Aswadya Apicha Sayatra Shirad Sravati Shirab Bibyash Sumahan Nime Sardakyuva Rajati Nahiyatrapi Samaya Bajay Swita Dvipam Tamaham Ihagolakam Itiyam Vidantaste Santakshati Viracharakati Payeshwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha and Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Sri Brahmasamita Kijay. Shri Guru Vastika prayers Kijay. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet as such a spiritual master is a bona fide representative of Shri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, verse number 22, text 22. Tasyam chitasyo sanaso, no, tasyam chitasyo sanaso manoscha pritor atangner asitasya vayo tirtam sudasasya gavam guhasya yaschad da devasya saasiseve. Tasyam, on the bank of the river Saraswati. Tritasya, the pilgrimage site named Trita. Usanasa, the pilgrimage site named Usana. Manocha, as also of the pilgrimage site named Manu. Prito, that of Pritu. Ata, thereafter. Agne, that of Agni. Asitasya, that of Asita. Vayu, that of Vayu. Tirtam, place of pilgrimages. Sudasasya, of the name Sudasa. Gavam, that of Go. Guhasya, that of Guha. Yat, thereupon. Shadadevasya, of the name Shadadeva. Sa, Vidura. Asiseve, duly visited and performed the rituals. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. On the bank of the river Saraswati, there were 11 places of pilgrimage, namely Trita, Usana, Manu, Pritu, Agni, Asita, Vayu, Sudasa, Go, Guha, and Shadadeva. Vidura visited all of them and duly performed rituals. So there's no purport. So I'm going to go back and finish the last two verses, 19 and 20. First of all, it's important to understand what's going on today. Today, they are teaching the culture of the demons. And it begins by, there is no God. When you die, there is nothing after death. And number three, and perhaps the most vicious of all things, there's only relative truths. There's no such thing as an absolute truth. So, by establishing those 3 points, people become convinced that the goal of life is sense gratification. There's no God, there's nothing after death, and everything is relative. And there are no absolute truths. So this is putting people in a forced position that the goal of life is sense gratification. On top of all that, they come up with many false theories about the beginning of the world and also what are real values. Well, basically, every one of their real values is a violation of Krishna consciousness. So, what are we talking about? There are a real value is the eating meat to have protein. A real value is not in any way suppressing the desire for sex. A real value, according to the demons, is one should try and live as long as they can in this body, and they're spending billions and billions of dollars to find a way to keep the body alive longer and longer, and eventually attain immortality in this body. Right? And they have different techniques that they're researching to do that. They're working in 2 steps. First step is life prolongation. The second step is achieving immortality in this body. And then they come up with crazy ideas of how the world started. Big Bang, this thing, that thing. And then also to explain why there's so many different types of living entities. They come up with, they've adopted Darwin's speculations of the origin of species. It all happened by accident. Some lightning struck the primordial soup that had some amino acids in it. It might have been on the North Pole. It might have been on the South Pole. Who knows where it was. And one amoeba was born by accident, and then it developed into a human being over a long period of time. It's all nonsense. There's no proof of any of it. Yeah. And then and then the idea that there was some prototype the prototype animal that was probably some kind of a monkey, and that turned into a human being over time. Of course, you never see any human being being born from monkeys, but anyway, they have all these theories. None of it is proven, and they teach it as science. And then they talk about space travel. First of all, no one would live long enough to travel through space, right? When you say that there are some galaxies that are, 40 million light years away from the Earth, you're talking about hundreds and millions of years to reach it at the speed of light, 176,000 miles per hour. It's impossible. So they are just bluffing. And these scientists and so-called philosophers, whatever, they're just bluffing. And it goes on. There's all kinds of theories, all crazy theories, gender neutrality, critical race theory, and this thing and that thing, So there's one layer upon another layer upon another layer. It's like trying to peel an onion. There's so many layers in the onion of falsity, and basically all illusory stuff that has no factual basis to it. So, faced with all that, it's not surprising that most people are just materialists. Eat, sleep, mate, and defend. It's not surprising. They're overwhelmed with nonsense. And they accept it because now they accept the scientists as the pundits, right? And the scientists are the least qualified to be a pundit, right? Because they have all bad habits usually. So now to come back to this point, we heard about the pastime of people talking with Krishna, right? So today we're going to continue hearing about that in the story of Madhavendra Puri. And it begins in the Madhya Lila chapter 4, Sri Madhavendra Puri's devotional service. And we'll begin. Lord Chaitanya was on a parikram of holy places, and they were visiting Remuna, which is on the eastern part of India. I think it's in Orissa, and they visited the deity of Gopinatha in the temple of Remuna, and the deity was extremely attractive, beautiful. And Lord Chaitanya visited the temple and offered his obeisances with great devotion. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his obeisances at the lotus feet of the Gopinatha deity, the helmet of flowers on the head of Gopinatha fell down and landed on the head of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's a very auspicious sign, right? So, when the helmet of flowers on the head of Gopinath fell down and landed on the head of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When the deity's helmet fell upon his head, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very pleased, and thus he chanted and danced in various ways with his devotees. You see how someone who is a liberated soul is always chanting, dancing, and taking prasadam and hearing pastimes of the Lord. That's their life. Now someone would say, "Oh, well, that's an irresponsible life." What are they doing practically? Are they growing food? Do they have a factory? Do they have a business? Are they making money? Are they supporting their family? Blah, blah, blah. They say all these things to make the point that the devotees are basically cop-outs, as they say in English. They're copping out. They're not taking responsibility of society. Right? They're just doing dancing and feasting and chanting and hearing about Krishna and having festivals. One time there was a person, he was a phony guru, and he had a bunch of disciples. And one day they were on one side of a river, and they were carrying heavy stones. And it was a very hot day, and they were sweating. And the guru was, he wasn't, of course, he didn't have any stones in his arms, but his disciples did, and he was teaching them austerity. And on the other side of the river, there was a big Harinam Sankirtan festival going on. And devotees were chanting in ecstasy, Hare Krishna, and dancing. And some devotees saw the guru and his disciples on the other side of the river, and they were saying, come on over, it's great, chant Hare Krishna, be happy. And when the guru saw this, he told his disciples, don't listen to what they're saying. They're nonsense. They don't know what life is about. This is life. We have to do austerities like this. And, you know, it was really hot, and everyone was sweating, and they were like just struggling. So one of those disciples of the false guru, he said, you know, they're right. And he threw the stones down, jumped into the river, and swam to the other side and joined the Sankirtan party. And the guru told his other disciples, don't follow him. He's a traitor to his guru. He doesn't know what real spiritual life is. And the others were sort of sorry they didn't jump into the river, but they kept following the guru. So this is the problem. People think that chanting, dancing, taking prasadam, and hearing about Krishna is irresponsible life. But they're going every day and doing their business and making money and fighting, and there's wars, and there's pandemics, and there's riots, and there's hurricanes, and there's earthquakes. This is life. See, it is not the real life. Now, are we against working? No. In fact, devotees might be working more than the outside people. If you follow all the regulative principles, we're awake at least 18 to 20 hours a day doing things. But what kind of things are we doing? We're doing things to spread Krishna consciousness. And we're not against people working. Anybody who's a grihasta has to work, unless they limit themselves to just living in a temple. But there's nothing wrong with that. Prabhupada worked also. He was a grihasta also. He demonstrated that you can go through grihasta life and still be a pure devotee and even do wonderful things. Prabhupada did miraculous things, right? But that was after his children were married and wife was being taken care of by his children. Then he took sannyas. But he prepared himself. His life story would be called A Life in Preparation, by always associating with devotees, chanting, and so forth. And he became Krishna conscious. He became initiated rather late in his life. He was initiated in 1933. He was born in 1894. So that's 4 and 33 is 37 years old when he got initiated, right? And then he took sannyas when he was 59. So we see Prabhupada went through all the normal, what you would call cycle of life. He also graduated college. Of course, he didn't accept the graduation certificate, but he graduated. So he went to school, and he got married. He had 5 children. He had a business, and he worked, and at the same time he supported devotees and their efforts to open temples and different things like that. He was always engaged in reading and following his guru's instructions. He got initiated in 1933. His guru left his body in 1935 or 6. I forget which date, but 1936, I think. So we see that, and how much association did he have with his guru? Well, he had very little association with his guru, right? He might have been with him about 5 or 6 or maybe 10 times maximum. But he imbibed, that's a nice word, I-M-B-I-B-E-D. He imbibed the teachings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he scrupulously followed them. That's another good word, scrupulously followed them. What's imbibe mean?
Absorb or assimilate.
What? Assimilate.
Absorb or assimilate.
Yeah, he assimilated the knowledge that his guru was teaching. He understood it, and he followed it integrally, point by point. He did not deviate from it. That was, and he says that was his defining quality. That he didn't deviate one iota from his guru's teachings. Right? Okay, so the helmet of flowers from the deity Gopinath falls on the head of Lord Chaitanya. All the servants of the deity were struck with wonder due to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's intense love, his exquisite beauty, and his transcendental qualities. Because of their love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they served him in many ways, and that night the Lord stayed at the temple of Gopinath. The Lord remained there because he was very eager to receive the remnants of sweet rice offered to Gopinath the deity, having heard a narration from his spiritual master Ishwara Puri of what had once happened there. That deity was known widely as Shira Chura Gopinatha, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told his devotees the story of how the deity became so famous. So Shira means sweet rice, what we call sweet rice, or payasam, which they use that word in South India. And Chora means he's a thief. So the Lord is a thief of sweet rice. Right? Now we're going to hear the story. You probably know the story, but we're going to go into the details. Formerly, the deity had stolen a pot of sweet rice for Madhavendra Puri. Therefore, he became very famous as the Lord who stole the sweet rice. Once, Sri Madhavendra Puri traveled to Vrindavan, where he came upon the hill known as Govardhana. Madhavendra Puri was almost mad in his ecstasy of love of Godhead, and he did not know whether it was day or night. Sometimes he stood up, and sometimes he fell to the ground. He could not discriminate whether he was in a proper place or not. After circumambulating the hill, meaning Govardhan, Madhavendra Puri went to Govinda Kunda and took his bath. He then sat beneath a tree to take his evening rest. While he was sitting beneath the tree, an unknown cowherd boy came with a pot of milk, placed it before Madhavendra Puri, and smiling addressed him as follows. "O Madhavendra Puri, please drink the milk I have brought. Why don't you beg some food to eat? What kind of meditation are you undergoing?" When he saw the beauty of that boy, Madhavendra Puri became very satisfied. Hearing his sweet words, he forgot all hunger and thirst. Madhavendra Puri said, "Who are you? Where do you reside? And how did you know that I was fasting?" The boy replied, "Sir, I'm a cowherd boy, and I reside in this village. In my village, no one fasts. In this village, a person can beg food from others and thus eat. Some people drink only milk, but if a person does not ask anyone for food, I supply him all his eatables. The women who come here to take water saw you, and they supplied me with this milk and sent me to you." The boy continued, "I must go very soon to milk the cows, but I shall return and take back this milk pot from you." Saying this, the boy left the place. Indeed, he suddenly could be seen no more, and Madhavendra Puri's heart was filled with wonder. After drinking the milk, Madhavendra Puri washed the pot and put it aside. He looked toward the path, but the boy never returned. Madhavendra Puri could not sleep. He sat and chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and at the end of the night he dozed a little, and his external activities stopped. In a dream, Madhavendra Puri saw the very same boy. The boy came before him, and holding his hand, took him to a bush in the jungle. The boy showed Madhavendra Puri the bush and said, "I reside in this bush, and because of this I suffer very much from severe cold, rain showers, winds, and scorching heat. Please bring the people of the village and get them to take me out of this bush. Then have them situate me nicely on top of the hill. Please construct a temple on top of that hill," the boy continued, "and install me in that temple. After this, wash me with large quantities of cold water so that my body may be cleansed. For many days I have been observing you, and I have been wondering, when will Madhavendra Puri come here to serve me? I have accepted your service due to your ecstatic love for me. Thus I shall appear, and by my audience all fallen souls will be delivered. My name is Gopala. I am the lifter of Govardhan Hill. I was installed by Vajra, and here I am the authority." Vajra was a grandson of Krishna. When the Muslims attacked, the priest who was serving me hid me in this bush in the jungle. Then he ran away out of fear of the attack. See? Since the priest went away, I have been staying in this bush. It is very good that you have come here. Now, just remove me with care." After saying this, the boy disappeared. Then Madhavendra Puri woke up and began to consider his dream. Madhavendra Puri began to lament. "I saw Lord Krishna directly, but I could not recognize him." Thus he fell down on the ground in ecstatic love. Madhavendra Puri cried for some time, but then he fixed his mind on executing the order of Gopala. Thus he became tranquil. In other words, he became peaceful. Right? After taking his morning bath, Madhavendra Puri entered the village and assembled all the people. Then he spoke as follows. "The proprietor of this village, Govardhana Dari, is lying in the bushes. Let us go there and rescue him from that place. The bushes are very dense, and we will not be able to enter the jungle. Therefore, take choppers and spades to clear the way." After hearing this, all the people accompanied by Madhavendra Puri with great pleasure. All the people accompanied Madhavendra Puri with great pleasure. According to his directions, they cut down bushes, cleared the path, and entered the jungle. So at that time, Govardhan was covered with so many trees, it was a jungle. When they saw the deity covered with dirt and grass, they were all struck with wonder and pleasure. After they had cleansed the body of the deity, some of them said, "The deity is very heavy. No single person can move him." Since the deity was very heavy, some of the stronger men assembled to carry him to the top of the hill. Madhavendra Puri also went there. A big stone was made into a throne, and the deity was installed upon it. Another big stone was placed behind the deity for support. All the Brahmana priests of the village gathered together with 9 water pots, and water from Govinda Kunda Lake was brought there and filtered. When the deity was being installed, 900 pots of water were brought from Govinda Kunda. There were musical sounds of bugles and drums and the singing of women. During the festival, at the installation ceremony, some people sang and some danced. All the milk, yogurt, and clarified butter in the village were brought to the festival. Various foods and sweetmeats, as well as other kinds of presentations, were brought there. I am unable to describe all these. The villagers brought a large quantity of tulsi leaves, flowers, and various kinds of garments. Then Sri Madhavendra Puri personally began the Abhisheka bathing ceremony. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Hari Bhakti Vilasa, 6th Vilasa, verse 30, it is stated that the deity should be bathed in water mixed with yogurt and milk, accompanied by the sounds of conch shells, bells, and other instruments, and the chanting of the mantra, Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namaha, as well as the chanting of the Brahma Samhita verses, beginning Chintamani Prakarasad Masukalpa Vriksha Lakshavritesa Surabir Abhipalyantam. Next verse. After all inauspicious things were driven away by the chanting of the mantra, the deity's bathing ceremony started. First, the deity was massaged with a large quantity of oil so that his body became very glossy. So this is all important information we're seeing. This is the way to worship the deity, and this installation of a deity. After the first bathing, further bathings were conducted with Panchagavya and then with Panchamrita. So Panchagavya has cow dung and cow urine, as well as ghee and yogurt and butter. After the Mahasana was finished, the deity was again massaged with scented oil and his body made glossy. Then the last bathing ceremony was performed with scented water kept within a conch shell. And purport by Srila Prabhupada. In his commentary on this occasion, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura quotes from the Hari Bhakti Vilasa. Barley powder, wheat powder, vermilion powder, and urad dal powder, and another powder preparation called avata, made by mixing banana powder and ground rice, are applied to the deity's body with a brush made from the hair at the end of a cow's tail. This produces a nice finish, and the oil smeared over the body of the deity should be scented. To perform the Mahasnana, at least 2.5 manas, about 24 gallons of water, are needed to pour over the body of the deity. After the body of the deity was cleansed, he was dressed very nicely with new garments. Then sandalwood pulp, tulsi garlands, and other fragrant flower garlands were placed upon the body of the deity. After the bathing ceremony was finished, incense and lamps were burned, and all kinds of food offered before the deity. These foods included yogurt, milk, and many other sweetmeats as were received. The deity was first offered many varieties of food, then scented drinking water in new pots, and then water for washing the mouth. Finally, pan mixed with a variety of spices was offered. After the last offering of tambula and pan, Bhoga Aratrika was performed. Finally, everyone offered various prayers and then obeisances, falling flat on the before the deity in full surrender. As soon as the people of the village had understood that the deity was going to be installed, they brought their entire stocks of rice, dal, and wheat flour. They brought such large quantities that the entire surface of the top of the mountain was filled. Wow. When the villagers brought their stock of rice, dal, and flour, the potters of the village brought all kinds of cooking pots, and in the morning the cooking began. 10 brahmanas cooked the food grains, and 5 brahmanas cooked dry and liquid vegetables. The vegetable preparations were made from various kinds of spinach, roots, and fruits collected from the forest, and someone made bada and badi by mashing dal. In this way, the brahmanas prepared all kinds of food. 5 to 7 men prepared a huge quantity of chapatis, which were sufficiently covered with ghee, clarified butter, as were all the vegetables, rice, and dal. Wow. Goodbye, vegans. All the cooked rice was stacked on palasa leaves, which were on new cloths spread over the ground. Around the stack of cooked rice were stacks of chapatis, and all the vegetables and liquid vegetable preparations were placed in different pots and put around them. Pots of yogurt, milk, buttermilk, and shikarini, sweet rice, cream, and solid cream were placed alongside the vegetables. In this kind of ceremony, which is called anakuta, cooked rice is stacked like a small mountain for prasadam distribution. Okay. In this way, anakuta ceremony was performed, and Madhavendra Puri Goswami personally offered everything to Gopala. Many water pots were filled with scented water for drinking, and Lord Shri Gopala, who had been hungry for many days, ate everything offered to him. Although Shri Gopala ate everything offered, still, by the touch of his transcendental hand, everything remained as before. Purport. The atheist cannot understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing in the form of the deity, can eat all the food offered by his devotees. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:26, Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yomi bhakta prayachati tadaham bhakti aparatam asnami prayatat manaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. The Lord is Purna, complete, and therefore he eats everything offered by his devotees. However, by the touch of his transcendental hand, all the food remains exactly as before. It is the quality that has changed. Before the food was offered, it was something else. But after it is offered, the food acquires a transcendental quality. Because the Lord is Parna, he remains the same even after eating. Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Sisyate. The food offered to Krishna is qualitatively as good as Krishna, just as Krishna is avyaya, indestructible. The food eaten by Krishna, being identical with him, remains as before. And apart from this, Krishna can eat the food with any one of his transcendental senses. Okay. He can eat by serving the food, or by seeing the food, or by touching it. Nor should one think that it is necessary for Krishna to eat. He does not become hungry like an ordinary human being. Nonetheless, he presents himself as being hungry, and as such he can eat everything and anything, regardless of quantity. The philosophy underlying Krishna's eating is understandable by our transcendental senses. When our senses are purified by constantly being engaged in a devotional service to the Lord, we can understand Krishna's activities, names, forms, qualities, pastimes, and entourage. Atak si Krishna nama di nabhavet grayam indriyai sevan mukhehi jiva do swayam eva spurat yada. No one can understand Krishna by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.234. The devotees understand Krishna through revelation. It is not possible for a mundane scholar to understand Krishna and his pastimes through research work on the non-devotional platform. So, these are all very important instructions for us. This shows the difference between academic knowledge and revealed knowledge or revelation. Krishna consciousness is based on revelation. It's not an academic, let's say, practice. It's one of purification of the material concept of life that's been embedded into us by family and society and school and so forth, and purifying the mind and the senses of sense gratification and false concepts of life. Then one, with their transcendental senses activated, can begin to understand Krishna. We have transcendental senses, spiritual senses. Our spiritual body has senses and mind and intelligence, but they're different than the material senses, mind, and intelligence. The material senses, mind, and intelligence are contaminated by bad association. And that association nowadays is, well, there's always been bad association, even from the beginning of time. There's just more little gadgets to help us have bad association now than before, but there's always been bad association. So, the wonderful festival installment of Sri Gopalaji was arranged in one day. Certainly all this was accomplished by the potency of Gopala. No one but a devotee can understand this. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, the Krishna consciousness movement has spread all over the world within a very short time, within 5 years. And mundane people are very much astonished at this. However, by the grace of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we understand that everything is possible by the grace of Krishna. That's why Prabhupada said once that impossible is a word in the fool's dictionary. It's not in the devotee's dictionary. Because one can do impossible things with the help of Krishna, of course. Therefore, if we purify ourselves by strictly following the regulative principles and regularly hearing and also speaking Bhagavad philosophy, Krishna will endow us with powers that we never could have had before because of our contamination. But once you become purified, Krishna empowers you to do wonderful things. Why does Krishna have to take 5 years? In 5 days, he can spread his name and fame all over the world like wildfire. Those who have faith in and devotion to Krishna can understand that these things happen so wonderfully by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We are simply the instruments. In the fierce battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna was victorious within 18 days simply because Krishna's grace was on his side. Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara Tatra Shri Vijaya Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. That's Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, last verse 78. So, we should always have Krishna and Arjuna with us. That's Bhagavad Gita. That's Krishna and Arjuna. And then we're guaranteed opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. If the preachers in our Krishna consciousness movement are sincere devotees of Krishna, Krishna will always be with them because he is very kind and favorable to all his devotees. Just as Arjuna and Krishna were victorious in the battle of Kurukshetra, this Krishna consciousness movement will surely emerge victorious if we but remain sincere devotees of the Lord and serve the Lord according to the advice of the predecessors, the six Goswamis and other devotees of the Lord. As Narottam Das Thakur has stated, Tandira Charana Se Vibhakta Sanivas Janami Janami Hai E Abhilasa. The Krishna consciousness devotees must always desire to remain in the society of devotees. Bhakta Sanivasa. They cannot go outside the Krishna consciousness society or movement. Within the society, we must try to serve the predecessors by preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult and spreading his name and fame all over the world. If we attempt this seriously within the society, it will be successfully done. There is no question of estimating how this will happen in the mundane sense, but without a doubt, it happens by the grace of Krishna. So these are precious instructions. This is verse 79 of the Madhya Lila chapter 4. This Prabhupada is explaining what is the process of learning in Krishna consciousness, and he's explaining what are the symptoms of a devotee who has developed his love and affection for Krishna. He or she is is having revelations given to them by Krishna. Now, what does that mean exactly? Is it like, for example, every day we're hearing something from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you listen very carefully, you will have revelations. What does that mean? It means that the meaning of the words become revealed to you by the mercy of Krishna. And every day you learn something new. Like the other day, Adi Dev told me, in the class I learned one thing: always write everything down. Whenever people say, well, I promise you to do this, have it written down, signed, and notarized, and legally, recorded. Because people have short memories, people like to cheat, and so forth. Right? So he learned, it was revealed to him, right, the importance of writing everything down in a contractual basis. So that is revelation theology, right? Now you might say, what does that have to do with theology? It's a practical thing of law. No, it's part of Krishna consciousness, right? The two Brahmanas, they went all the way to Vrindavan, and the old elder Brahmana made a promise in front of Gopal deity, and the boy, he said, well, let's write this down, because you made a promise in front of the deity. You cannot break your promise. So let's write it down. In case there's any problems, we'll have it, written down and signed. Right? And but eventually, the son of the elderly Brahmana, he was a real cheater, and he said that the boy drugged his father, gave him some LSD or something, or drug, and took his money, stole his money. Of course, none of this is true, right? And then made him sign a paper saying that he can marry the daughter in the family. So he made all these lies, and the people, he put a doubt in the minds of all the people in the village, so they were inclined to believe all the lies. This happens all the time in life. There are people who are very, very good liars. I
have an example, real life example, Maharaj.
Okay, speaking of the microphone. There's a microphone right there. So you don't have to go there. You don't have to go there.
Sorry. So in my personal life, our family. So my dad bought some land from somebody, and then in the night we verbally agreed. They verbally agreed that okay, morning we'll do agreement and all those things. And so there is a land, so they call it temporary
Hold
agreement.
the microphone.
There is a temporary agreement and Saudi Chitti, there is some in the Maharashtra. And then we go and officially get it agreement in the office, right, treasury.
You have to get the stamp.
Yeah, stamp and treasury. So
You
in
have
the
to go to
morning,
stamp magistrate.
yeah, he agreed everything is, the deal is final, everything. In the morning, somebody, like our envious person, and he gave, okay, I'll give you more or something. He diverted his mind. In the morning, that guy totally said, oh, I don't do it.
No, I understand.
He took
yeah.
money, everything, and he totally said, oh, I'm not going to do this. I didn't take. So we did file a case in court for my dad filed a case. And it goes for like 10 years. After 10 years, and he's giving in front of the judge what he's saying that, oh, there is a sign, but this sign, I know, they just asked me to do something, I did. I can't read whatever there it is. They just asked me sign here, I sign it. So he was claiming that I can write, but I cannot read. And the court accepted it. And the case got dismissed. We didn't get anything. Like we have to go in the Supreme Court, all those things. So, but he was just like lying in front of the court, saying that I cannot read. I just write something. I can write, but I cannot read. So whatever they written there, I don't know. They just asked me to sign here, and I signed it. So we kind of.
Let me understand this first. I didn't get it straight. So at night they made an agreement.
Yeah, but it's
So did your father pay him money at that time?
yes.
Yeah. So he gave the money at that night.
Yeah.
Right. And in the morning he got a better offer from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Someone else.
Somebody just said,
So
yeah.
he said we never made any agreement.
Yeah.
And he kept the money also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's not official because it's a temporary signed paper. We wrote a paper.
Okay. So
and then
did the father have the paper? Did your father have the paper?
yeah, paper, but that is
He
not.
had the paper.
Yeah.
And that he signed and the other guy signed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's
Good
temporary
thing
because
he did that.
yeah, he did that, but it's not official unless you go into the
No, I understand.
government
I
office
understand,
and
I
then
understand. But
yeah.
he made the point, I don't know how to read, but I know how to sign.
yeah, and then court accepted that fact.
After
that
10 years, and how much money? With the lawyers and everything.
yeah, forget about the but the
Wa-
pain.
was
like,
it worth it to fight for that land? The land must
yeah,
have been very
it was.
valuable.
Yeah, it was because prime land and.
So your
it was
father
like,
got the land after 10 years.
yeah, after 10 years, we didn't get it through court, but this third outside court settlement, like somebody as an agent, he said, okay, he gave some money to that owner, he gave money to us, and then settled that case. But we
The
didn't.
guy who bought it.
The third person. That's
third
totally one
person.
agent actually. He just intervened. He said, okay, don't worry, forget about this case. You will not going to win if you go Supreme Court. So let it settle. I'll give you this much money to you. I'll give it to the owner, and let's settle this.
So
And
your father got all the money back that he spent on the.
Yes. We got some money. Yeah, but yeah, this is like people are. I was talking about the point is people lies, and then even the court accepts.
People lie every day.
Yeah.
They lie every day. Okay, so anyway, see, you learn a lot of practical things. It's not that, you're only learning about the spiritual world. You also learn how to deal with the material nature and how to deal with the demons and all these things. You learn all these things by hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and especially also Chaitanya Charitamrita. So then, therefore, we'll go forward. Madhavendra Puri offered water to Gopala for washing his mouth, and he gave him betel nuts to chew. Then, while Arati was performed, all the people chanted, Jaya, Jaya, all glories to Gopala. Arranging for the Lord's rest, Sri Madhavendra Puri brought a new cot, and over this he spread a new bedspread, and thus made the bed ready. A temporary temple was constructed by covering the bed all around with a straw mattress. Thus, there was a bed and a straw mattress to cover it. After the Lord was laid down to rest on the bed, Madhavendra Puri gathered all the brahmanas who had prepared the prasadam and said to them, now feed everyone sumptuously, from the children up to the aged, up to the elders. All the people gathered there sat down to honor the prasadam, and by they took food. All the brahmanas and their wives were fed first. According to the Varnashram, the purport, according to the Varnashram system, the brahmanas are always honored first. Thus, at the festival, the brahmanas and their wives were first offered the remnants of food, and then the others, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. This has always been the system, and it is still prevalent in India, even though the caste brahmanas are not qualified. The system is still current due to the Varnashrama institutional rules and regulations. Okay. So anyway, this story goes on. It's a remarkable story. And, okay, so we get to the point where the deity in Rimuna steals a pot. Well, what does it mean, steals? After the offering was made to the deity in the evening, the deity held one pot and hid it behind one of its feet. And it was not noticed by the pujaris. Later on, Madhavendra Puri went and he heard about how delicious and savory this pot of sweet rice is of this particular deity, and he wanted to taste it. And then he felt as if he committed an offense by saying that and thinking about that. And therefore he left and decided not to go to sleep, to chant all night, because he considered that he'd made an offense, thinking about eating the prasadam of the deity while I think the offering might have been going on at that time or something like that. So, but then after they closed the temple and the Brahmana priest that was worshiping the deity went home and was taking rest, he had a dream, and the deity was calling him and telling him to come back to the temple. And he woke up, and he wasn't sure whether it was real or not, but it seemed so real. So he goes back to the temple, and he opens up the deity, and he sees that there's a pot of sweet rice that was behind the deity, and the deity tells him, take this to Madhavendra Puri. So he goes out at night, walking around the small village, calling out, is there Madhavendra Puri here? And Madhavendra Puri stayed up all night. So he said, yes, it's me. And he gives him the pot of sweet rice. He said, this was Gopalaji deity told me to give this to you. So Madhavendra Puri is overwhelmed, and he realizes that the deity understood his mind and actually stole a pot so that it could be given to him. And then he keeps that pot, and he eats a little bit of the rice every day, and eventually he eats the pot also. He breaks it into little pieces and powders it and eats that also, because he considered the whole thing prasadam. So I'm just going through the story really quickly. In fact, I'll read the summary in the beginning. This is another example of the deity talking to a devotee. Say, now, that's the difference between a deity and an idol. You can see the idol, you can talk to the idol, but it's not going to talk back to you unless they have some kind of radio or something, or a tape recorder inside. But so it says here, one night while in Govardhan, Madhavendra Puri dreamed that the Gopal deity was within the forest. The next morning, he invited his neighborhood friends to accompany him to excavate the deity from the jungle. He then established the deity of Sri Gopalaji on top of Govardhan Hill with great pomp. Gopala was worshipped, and the Annakuta festival was observed. This festival was known everywhere, and many people from the neighboring villages came to join. One night, the Gopal deity again appeared to Madhavendra Puri in a dream and asked him to go to Jagannath Puri to collect some sandalwood pulp and smear it on the body of the deity. Having received this order, Madhavendra Puri immediately started for Orissa, and that's like a long trip. And there's no train, there's no airplane, he has to walk the whole way. And it's dangerous also because it was broken up, India was broken up into little kingdoms, and most of them were led by Muslims. So it was usually people who would travel across India would have to stay in the jungles so that they would not be seen, because the Muslims would charge money if you passed through their territory. So if you didn't have the money, they wouldn't let you in. So then it says, he then established the deity Gopalji on top. Okay. So one night, the Gopal deity again appeared to Madhavendra Puri in a dream and asked him to go to Jagannath Puri to collect some sandalwood pulp and smear it on the body of the deity. Having received this order, Madhavendra Puri immediately started for Orissa. Traveling through Bengal, he reached Remuna village and there received a pot of condensed milk, Shira, offered to the deity of Gopinathaji. This pot of condensed milk was stolen by Gopinatha and delivered to Madhavendra Puri. Since then, the Gopinatha deity has been known as Shira Chora Gopinatha, the deity who stole the pot of condensed milk. After reaching Jagannath Puri, Madhavendra Puri received permission from the king to take out 1 mound of sandalwood and 20 tolas of camphor. Aided by 2 men, he brought these things to Remuna. Again he saw in a dream that Gopala at Govardhana Hill desired that very sandalwood to be turned into pulp mixed with camphor and smeared over the body of Gopinathaji, understanding that would satisfy the Gopala deity at Govardhana. Madhavendra Puri executed the order and returned to Jagannath Puri. So we see that there's no difference between Gopala deity in Govardhan and Gopinathaji deity in Remuna. These are different forms of Krishna, but it's all Krishna. And therefore, to spare Madhavendra Puri the drudgery of carrying this sandalwood and camphor and going through all the different Muslim territories in which probably he would have been beaten and the things would be stolen, Gopal deity said, look, just spear it on Gopinathaji and I'll be satisfied. Right? So this is unbelievable for materialists. It's, how can stone deities be talking and all this communication going on? They would say, it's not factual. It's fairy tales. There are so many fairy tales, and this is another fairy tale. But no, for devotees, they understand this because they understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can do anything he wants. So that's the basis of our faith. Now, is it actually a fact? Well, according to what's being said in Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Bhagavatam also, if we become purified of the material conception of life and engage in devotional service, you will also experience these type of things. And it happens all the time to devotees who are sincerely engaged in the devotion, in the service of the Lord. It's happened to me many times in my 53 years in Krishna consciousness. Things that I never thought could happen have happened. And it happens on a regular basis. But it's not, something that you plan for. It's in the course of engaging in unalloyed devotional service that these things happen, because Krishna always helps his devotees. So that's just something that we should take away from this history of Madhavendra Puri, that even the most impossible task can be performed by a devotee if the devotee is completely surrendered to Krishna. And Krishna will help the devotee even in the most impossible situations. We need to have that faith. Otherwise, we would never expend ourselves or try to make a special effort to do something that seems to be impossible in our mind. It's only when we have this faith that we're able to do it. Now, if you do it and you fail, there's nothing lost because at least you tried. And if you do it and succeed, it's all due to the mercy of Krishna. See? And that's the way the devotee thinks. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. What time is it now? Okay. Are there any questions?
Just a question, clarification on the purport we read. So one of this purport, Prabhupada mentioned that this movement maybe can be done. It took like 5 years to finish.
He told the devotees,
Yeah.
he said, if you strictly follow Krishna consciousness as I've taught you, then like the Pandavas, we could take over the whole world in 18 days. He
Okay.
actually said that. But you're not ready to do it. See? He said, if you actually are very sincere and are willing to follow strictly, we could take over this world in 18 days. Just like the Pandavas defeated the Kauravas in 18 days.
Yeah, but yeah.
And he's repeating something like that again here.
Yeah. So
Why 5?
Why 5 years it
5
took? Like
years
we
you
could
could
have done in like
5 days.
Krishna's 5 days also. So how do I mean? It is Krishna's plan, or I didn't get the explanation actually. Prabhupada mentioned, but I'm not clear about the explanation. I don't
No,
think
the
he
explanation is this, that, you see, we are all conditioned by the material nature and society, thinking that we have to, do this business or this profession, and we have to go to work, and we have to earn money, and put the money in the bank, and invest it, and buy this and buy that. Actually, you don't have to do any of those things. You just have to be Krishna conscious. Right? Now, I experienced this in my own life, and many other devotees also. When we joined Krishna consciousness, we had to give everything we had to the temple. And most of us were not really rich. We were poor. And so there were some devotees who were rich, but when their parents saw that they became devotees, they didn't give them any money. So they lost that also. But so we started with nothing. Right? We just had a bead bag and a dhoti, and we would go out on Sankirtan every day. But by following Krishna consciousness, we were able to do things that we never thought we would be able to do. You look at the 3 couples that were sent to England. They met George Harrison and the Beatles at the peak of their fame and success. And they were able to convince them to meet Prabhupada. That this is a miracle. It's the Beatles were the top band and the most popular band in the world at that time. And somehow or other, the devotees went to England to try and meet them. They didn't know them personally. They didn't know anyone who knew them personally. But it happened. It was a miracle. And Prabhupada goes and stays at the mansion of John Lennon, I think it was, and outside of London, and meets John Lennon and Yoko Ono, or whatever her name is, and Ringo, and this one and that one.
George Harrison.
Huh?
George Harrison.
And Harris, yeah, George Harry's son. And it's just a miracle how they did it, right? And I also was able to do things I never thought I could do before. And then I didn't have any preparation other than just chanting and following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. So you see, the devotees actually experienced this. They gave up everything. They started with nothing. And they were able to do big things. It's like Gopal Krishna Maharaj, Bhakti Chiru Maharaj. You go through the list of these people. They've done amazing things, starting from zero. Just like Prabhupada, he comes to America with $7 in his pocket, right? And in a short period of time, he builds this gigantic movement. So I'm not saying you should quit your job or anything like that right now, but prepare yourself, like Prabhupada. See, Prabhupada went through all the steps that you're going through. And he did not abandon any of the responsibilities that he had. But at the right time, he realized that now, and he did not even want to take sannyas. He says that his guru forced him. Say, and his guru and his sannyas guru also. So we should understand that this type of life that we're leading right now, we got caught into it by bad association. But that's all right, because you can extricate yourself, that's a good word, extricate yourself from the whole entanglement by Krishna consciousness on a gradual basis. And during that time, you can do so much service, and if we all cooperate, we can collectively do miracles. So the miracle I want to see is should begin at the Ananda Mela, where our kids become trained. Like last night, I gave the homework of definitive homework of how to understand what is the mode of goodness, and we can send that out to everyone. So the kids should be the preachers of the. We're going to have a huge booth called the Unite for Goodness, and the kids should be the ones that are actually preaching to the people. If they see that, they'll be shocked, right? Other kids will be shocked, and the parents will especially be shocked if they see our kids are teaching and exemplifying the mode of goodness. Right? Now, is the mode of goodness pure Krishna consciousness? No, but it's the stepping stone to pure Krishna consciousness. You cannot step up to Krishna consciousness from passion and ignorance. Impossible. And everybody today is living in the mode of passion and ignorance. Right? But very few people are living in the mode of goodness. But if we, there's a tremendous potential of influencing many, many people. And it's not denominational. It's not that you have to become Hare Krishna to be in the mode of goodness. You don't have to be join Krishna consciousness to be in mode of goodness. But you can accept the principles or the precepts of the mode of goodness and become a better Christian or a better Muslim or a better Jew or a better this or that, a better atheist, right? A better person. So we should take this seriously. We should take this very seriously. It doesn't mean you have to give up your career or this or that. It just means that we do something that can actually help society, right? And make people actually do things that are beneficial to other people, not detrimental. Okay, so we'll stop right there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sana स्कन्दमुहि सावधान माते चाहर प्रसादे भाई ए भव तोरिया जा कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो कोरिया क्या अरना कोरी हो माने आशा ये प्रसादे चराने रति ऐसे उतामा गति श्री गुरु चराने रति ऐसे उतामा गति जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्वाशा ये प्रसाद जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्वाशा जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्वाशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जयते प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जयते वेद गाय जहर चरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनर बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनर बंधु लोकाना लोकेर जीवाना हा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पाद छाया हा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पाद छाया ए बिछा सुशुक्ति भुवाना जय प्रभुपाद पतित पावना जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे
गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Rama,
Nitya Gaura Hari Bo, Nitya Gaura Hari Bo.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajikachas Tatara Satarashi Shishimal, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Pram Sri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samavira Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glory is to assembled devotee. All glory is to assembled devotee. All glory is to assembled. All glory is to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glory is to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Buddhi Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Gurvani Pacharini Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Dasata. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us this fame, your lotus. Your fame spreads throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter in your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is a email I got yesterday, and it says, "My name is Nancy Johnson. I am the communications manager at Metro Parks Tacoma. I want to thank you for offering to bring your food truck to be part of our community celebration at Swan Creek on the 30th of April. There's a few things that I need to talk with you about. I realize that you're providing service free of charge, which we absolutely cannot believe. I know you do that routinely for the community, and it's just such a wonderful thing. I've watched on Facebook Live a number of occasions prior to this. So we are planning this event, and similar to what you do at the Asia Pacific Cultural Center. And it's just pretty astounding. I'm hoping that you can call me. This is actually my personal number, and probably the best number to reach me at. So in other words, this is a lady we don't know, right? She's just heard about us, and because when we go to Tacoma to the Asia Pacific Cultural Center, they televise the feeding, and they talk a lot of things about what's going on. So this lady has seen this, and she wants us to come to a festival that they're organizing with our food truck. Now, we have a platform now to spread the concept of living always in the mode of goodness. We have a platform because they see we're practically doing good things. So, and if they see our kids are into it big time and they're able to explain what the mode of goodness is and give practical demonstrations of it at the festival, by the giving, by doing things that are beneficial morally and spiritually for people, regardless of their religion, regardless of their orientations, whatever. It'll have a major impact on the public, right? So, yesterday, I'll share this with you now. We gave out this homework for next week. It's 14 points that explain exactly what the mode of goodness is in very big detail, right? If we can learn those 14 points, or just even a few of them, and be able to explain that at the festival, Ananda Mela, then we'll have a practice session also with the Vegetarian Vegan Raw Food Festival, right? It would be fantastic if our kids would man the booth and teach and share that, and see, it's not overly looking to be religious. It's just a fact of life that there are these three modes of nature, and unfortunately most people are living in the modes of passion and ignorance. But when they can come up to the mode of goodness, then the whole world changes, and the culture changes. Everything becomes very close to Krishna consciousness, and then the next step is Krishna consciousness. Okay, so that's our strategy. Hare Krishna. So let me give you, let's see, did you get you got the information from Bihari? Yeah. Can you give it to everybody that doesn't have it? Okay. So now, do we have homework for today? I think. From that, no? What? Okay, we can do that tomorrow.
And I will read some. I have made some of the points from Laws of Nature. There are like 38 or 39, but I did 5 or 6. I will present those.
Okay.
I will send you as well.
Okay. Hare Krishna. So at 11 to 12, there's a meeting for our festivals. So anybody who wants to come and know what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. So it's not just an Ananda Mela. We had our first festival is June 4th. It's the Color Festival, Holi. And then June 28th is the Vegetarian Vegan Raw Food Festival. And then there's the Ananda Mela at the last weekend of July. And then there's the Flavors of India and Rath Yatra, Labor Day weekend. And then there's the Namaste India Samamish. And then there is the Diwali Lights of India at the Seattle Center. Besides that, we're also going to be in the Folklife Festival, and we're going to have smaller festivals, one in Arlington at our farm, and one or two in Redmond, and there's still other. There's Derby Days also that we'll have our Rath Yatra cart and do the large group chanting and dancing. So this is going to be a very busy summer. Haribol.